Joining us in studio for his monthly visit is family law lawyer Steven Benmor. Welcome back to the show.
Hey Rita, how are you?
Good, nice to see you. We had the summer off.
That's right.
So you're back now, and a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And today we're talking about a really hot topic, one that I am not familiar with and a lot of people are confused by. What is this new Islamic law?
It's not new. It's in fact much older than Canadian law or older than Western law. Sharia law is a body of law based in the Quran, or that stems from the Quran, that governs the conduct of Muslim people when it comes to issues like marriage and divorce. So actually Sharia law has its history well past or well earlier than Canadian law when it comes to divorce law and marriage law. The idea of Sharia law, and the reason there's this public outcry and that there's going to be protests, and there has been protests, is that the Ontario province allows people to have their divorces handled by private arbitrators. The Jewish community has been doing this for many years. So if a Jewish couple were to, say, divorce 2 or 3 years ago, they could go the route that the rest of us go, which is to go to the family courts in Ontario and have their dispute adjudicated there. Alternatively, if you were Jewish, you could go and hire a private arbitrator and have that private arbitrator apply Jewish law to the divorce. Likewise, if people were divorcing right now and they weren't necessarily associated with any particular faith and they wanted to apply Canadian divorce law to their divorce, they can hire a private arbitrator to have that arbitrator make final and binding decisions regarding their divorce. So then the question came up, a Muslim organization wanted to set up their own private Muslim arbitration system to help people who are Canadian of the Muslim faith arbitrate their own private divorces. So then the question came up, what if people were to do that? Would it be fair to both genders? And the public outcry comes from the idea that Sharia law tends to be favorable to men and prejudicial to women.
Right.
And that's where the public outcry is. My personal view, which is just one person's view on this, is that it can't be fair. Why? Because if you have friends or you know people who are very devout Christians or very devout Buddhists or Jews or Muslims, whatever the case may be, when you are part of a very religious community or circle of friends, or if you're very attached to your church, if everybody is saying, if you have a divorce, you got to go to that place to deal with the divorce. And that place is not public, it's private, and it will be applying a non-gender equal set of laws, then that is going to be problematic. And the fear, however, is that certainly immigrants who come here and then years later they may divorce, or right after they arrive here they may divorce, they may not be aware of the other system of law that exists, i.e. being able to go to what you and I would go to family court to seek remedies.
Right.
So they might be kind of vacuumed into that particular corridor to settle their dispute, which might result in something very prejudicial to them. And that's exactly what Marion Boyd tried to address through her recommendations, to create things like to be able to allow the judges in family court to examine these arbitration decisions and then have the freedom to set it aside if it wasn't fair, or to have people be able to sign agreements in advance which would explain to them what they're about to do before they go ahead and have an arbitrator make a decision regarding their divorce and regarding their children. There was a movie with, I think, Sally Field called Not Without My Daughter.
Right.
I believe that's the name. And that was an example of an American woman that married an Iranian man. They divorced, and then he took the child back with him to Iran, and she had to hire investigators and had to fly in and go undercover in order to get her, I believe it was her daughter, returned back to North America. That's an example. Of course, that's a Hollywood example of it, but it's an example of where family law or divorce law has different premises in different countries. So, for example, at least according to that movie, in Iran, and I believe it's still the case today, according to Iranian law, that when a couple divorces, the man has a super priority to custody of the children over his wife, whereas in Ontario, it has nothing to do with gender at all. It's strictly based on what's best for the child. So, for example, if in Ontario, two people split up, but the man was the primary caregiver during the time that they were living together, and then they split up, it's likely that he will get custody of the child when they split up. Whereas, according to Iranian law, or maybe it involves part of what we're talking about here, which is Sharia law, there is a one gender is favored over the other, and that's an example. Another example is inheritance law. According to the Quran, when there is a death, the sons get a preferential share of the estate of the parents over their sisters. So gender does play a role in Sharia law, and the fear about applying Sharia law to family law disputes in Ontario under the auspices of the Arbitration Act could effectively sanction unequal treatment of men and women through divorce.